So Dream Networks is a social enterprise that essentially is on a mission to enable all children to play. It addresses the play inequality we see in the UK and internationally, where children who are from a certain economic background or maybe have certain abilities that they have challenges with in terms of emotionally or cognitively. They've got challenges and they're disadvantaged. They don't have play opportunities that mean that they can really enjoy and experience the joy of play.
So tell us about your first job after leaving university.
My first job after leaving university was at Atkins, an engineering consultancy in Bristol, and I was working as an aerospace engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer, but I applied for aerospace jobs because I think planes are cool and rockets.
Nice.
To be honest. And yeah, it was great. So I worked in an environment where I was amongst mainly men. We were able to go on site to look at engines, to look at parts of the plane. We were quite design orientated. There was a range of grads. It was fantastic in a real strong technical environment, but also being young and enjoying life.
Cool. So because I know people engineering, obviously Nigerian, isn't it? Lawyer, doctor, engineer. So you're probably like the first person that's ticked the engineer. We've had lawyers, we've had finance people, we haven't had an engineer. So we really enjoy, you know, you have ticked the ultimate Nigerian
technical
box.
box. Yeah.
You're an engineer, right? So for us that don't know what engineering is about, because it is very wide, right? It's almost like saying I'm in finance, but finance is so wide.
Yeah.
So from a perspective of engineering, your first job, I know you said it was the aerospace, but what does it really mean? So for example, say year one, what did you do in year one?
Okay, I can go into detail. That's no problem. So my first year in aerospace, I was seconded to work for Rolls-Royce, which is really well known. People think Rolls-Royce create cars, they do, but it also create engines for a large fleet of airlines. They work for Boeing, they work with Airbus. So when I was in that particular project, I was doing something called critical analysis, where I was trying to understand why has there been failures in the engine. And it's mainly focused on safety. So we're looking at material assessments, we were looking at analysis of stress in terms of how the plane had been stressed or the particular engine after a particular failure on a component. So for me, it was problem solving like a detective. I loved it. I'm like, oh, this has happened. How did it occur? You may look back into old data. I use that data to understand this could have been the cause, and then you'd be able to present it. And for me, it was great. I was quite young, so I was 22, and I was a woman trying to understand why this particular thing happened on a plane, using a technical mindset, being really analytical, looking at past data to see actually this is what could have caused this to occur in the current, and this is what could later occur in the future if we don't address it.
So we're talking about an engine part that fails. Are there sensors then inside that give you the data points to say, when you say look at data, how are you looking at data for a physical metal part? Is it just wear and tear?
You can call it wear and tear. So if a particular component has maybe been identified as causing a failure or being part of the failure process, for example, somebody in the materials department can look at it and say actually potentially a surface treatment has come off. How does this surface treatment come off? What does that look like? What temperature could have caused this to occur? What could have occurred in terms of the environment around it? Has there been abrasion to it? So these little things are kind of like, in terms of being a detective, clues to why it could have occurred. In different parts of the plane, you may have sensors that actually will straight away help you identify the cause, but this is more detailed, looking at the material itself.
Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking. Isn't that really difficult? Because we're talking about pieces of metal that have been in the plane. Because, for example, you built a plane, but over time you might have changed different parts. So some parts might be newer than others. So that is really, you have to be really focused to actually pick out.
Well, it's not just me. Think about it like being a whole team. So people in the materials department may have done an assessment of this part, and then you're looking back and saying, actually, this is what could have caused it. And you're not straight away knowing the answer, but you're seeing from the data that's been provided what could have been the cause. And then from that, you're also saying, actually, this is the log we've had in terms of how the plane was flying. This is what is supposed to have occurred. This is how far, this is the datum in terms of how much it's moved from the datum. Could have caused this. So it's
kind of almost like, so it was at this altitude, or it may have dropped.
Yeah, you can take it like that, yeah. It may be more detailed, but yeah.
But yeah, of course, obviously,
exactly.
I'm a layman. So
no, completely, yeah.
But essentially, wow. But that's like a proper investigation. Obviously, it's almost like a murder mystery, because it's like you just don't actually, it could be anything. I'm not even talking about people, we're just talking about
little
things.
parts, yeah. And I loved it. So not everybody in my team not everybody would want to do that, because when you're a graduate, you're seconded and you're rotating. So I actually really enjoyed this. Then later on moved into something called composite analysis. So when you're looking at composites as a material and how it's impacting the plane, and that's a different form of the engineering. Then I did design. So there's a range of different things you do, but I really quite enjoyed it. I really did feel like a detective. Where somebody else would be like, you're looking at the assessment, that is so boring.
Yeah.
I saw it as being a problem solver.
Good. So first, is it 2-year grad rotation?
Yeah,
or one?
2-year grad, rotation.
And then from there you decided, and then this is obviously and this is at Atkins, but was you with Rolls-Royce for the 2 years?
Oh, no, I was with Rolls-Royce, and I left and I went to work in-house in Atkins. I worked for Airbus projects.
Okay, and was that design or was that?
That was stress, materials and design. So
Define
convenient.
stress.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, did you say stress to materials?
No, I did stress, materials and then design. So stress is stress analysis, so it's like maths and physics.
Right.
So
On parts.
On parts. So
right.
Particularly for me, it was looking at the ring of the plane and composites. So if you use a particular composite material and then you modeled it on the computer and you applied a certain stress, or for most people a load or piece of force on that particular area, how would that material react and how could that look?
Modelling?
Yeah, modelling, yeah.
What software?
So spinal element analysis could be something we use. Particular software, I actually can't remember the name of it, but...
So essentially you would have because this is quite cool, a picture of a plane with a
ring,
with a wing, and then it's the 3D image, right? And then you're now putting it through like a module and you're showing the wind hitting at this this angle, all of that kind of stuff, and then seeing when it's going to come off.
And then you're looking at it's a lot of details. You're looking at, if it's a composite, you're looking at the different layers of that particular material. Because that really matters in planes, because often you're trying to reduce the rate, and composites are trying to help you reduce the rate, but still have the correct structural rigidity or the material properties that you need to be able to fly a plane.
Wow, that is so... I should have done engineering, see? I should have been an engineer. Anyway, so cool. So you're at Atkins now for 2 years. You've done your rotation program. We are now 2 years into your career. What happens after that, the rotation?
So after I finished the rotation, then you, I guess, asked what area you're more interested in, because Atkins being an engineering consultancy, there's a diverse areas you can go into. So my last rotation was on design. I loved it, but I found it quite mundane, because at that particular time, the design was quite focusing on, actually, this is a boat. Okay, now we're going to design a range of boats for the plane, then we're going to then integrate it into another component system, and then we're going to integrate something else. And it was very formulaic, surprisingly, for design, very detailed. And although I actually excelled on it because I'm quite analytical and quite detailed, I found it quite boring. So when they asked me what I want to move into, because I had done a range of different areas, I was just quite open to ideas. So they put me in a particular project, was looking at installation on the ring. And yeah, I really enjoyed that as well. And that was something that was really important for me, to be in that team, because I was initially started as a team member. Then after a very short period of time, I became the lead, which was also very interesting, working with men and being the lead engineer and being a woman and being younger than the people you're leading. But I was able to use our mindset in terms of being able to use different technical fields and understand it together to be able to lead the team. And that's where I actually first invented and got a patent in that particular project.
So we can Google you?
Yeah.
So what was your patent?
It was on an aircraft installation tool.
Eh?
So yeah, it was.
See, this is why you need to be an engineer, guys. You can get patents as well. So question then. So I think that's the time probably when I saw you speak at this higher educational kind of conference, which was really fascinating, because I feel like we were the only two black people in the room, so it was brilliant. So at that point then in your career, you've got, so let me understand, because patents to me, because I'm Nigerian, suggest that there's money somewhere. So let me understand, you're working for another company, do you decide to do the patent, or the company says, oh, we should do a patent on this, and then you get credit for it? So how did that...
It's the latter. So the company saw it, they're like, okay, great, we should really patent this, and then I get my name as inventor. They get like I think I got a certain amount of money.
Like you got paid off as opposed to a royalty.
I didn't get royalties, but my name's on it, which I think is great, and I think it was quite interesting, because when I got it, I think a few people who were in the team who were a bit more senior were like, oh, maybe I could also be on it, it'll help your application. I was like, no, you didn't help me.
Sharks, see sharks, see that?
They didn't help at all. So I said, no, it's okay, I can do it by myself. They were saying they were trying to help me, and obviously if they're going to help me, the application.
Exactly. So you were on the application, but obviously the Atkins only the proprietary.
No, so Airbus own it. So Airbus own it, and it was patented, I think, in Europe, America, and somewhere else, basically across the world. And then I'm the inventor. So my name's on it. That's what matters.
You need to send me that number so we can get it on there. So I can search on the patent. Is it UK or Europe?
It's a
Whose
UK.
database would it be on?
It's a UK, Europe, and America. But I think it expired in one of those places. But no, it's in Europe and America, and it expired in one of those. But I'm sure you can find it.
Wow.
I can send it to you.
So hold on. How did that make you feel?
What, the fact I was finally an inventor.
You invented something? Because remember, you said you did mechanical engineering for that specific thing, but up until that point, so what are we, 6 years into your career now, or 7?
Oh, less than that, actually. I got it quite early. Not early, but 3-4 years I did my first application. Yeah.
So you're 25-year-old with a patent?
Yeah, but patent takes ages. So I applied, but I think like 6 years later, whatever it may be, before patent takes ages to actually be signed off. But yeah, I think I don't know if I was 25, probably 24 or 25.
When it actually went through?
Yeah, when I first submitted, and then it went 3 years later.
Right. So when it went through, how does Marie feel about herself?
Because patents take so long, I didn't even know it had gone through. I was searching for something else, and I searched my name, and I was like, oh, the patents have all come through. I'm being genuinely honest. But yeah, but when I found out, I was really happy. I remember telling my mum, and she was like quite excited for me as well. I was like, I've got my patent. She's like, yay. She didn't even know what patent meant. But she was excited because I was.
Wow. So literally forever. Oh no, so you said they expire, but then does that mean that someone else can take your thing and do it again?
We just need to, I can't actually remember IP law, intellectual property law, but I think they either need to update it. It might be checking whether anybody else has done anything similar, whether it's still novel, but normally that's fine, or it's to do with fees, or it's to do with change in law. But
I'm assuming it's a part, so Airbus would probably want to keep that.
No, they probably will, but it's an installation tool, so they might.
There might be better technology out there.
Yeah, exactly. That's the answer.
Wow. You seem very casual about this. So this is a big deal to me. It's like, it's a patent, and obviously I'll be fine. People saying I want royalties every plane that is made with my installation.
Yeah, if they are using it, I wouldn't even know, but probably would get a lot of money from it.
Wow. So this means is this any type of Airbus plane, or is it a specific?
Any aircraft.
Any aircraft?
Yeah, I designed any aircraft. I designed it to be able to be on different types of pipe systems.
You're so relaxed about saying this. It's almost irritating me. Can you not be excited? I'm joking.
I am excited. Yeah,
I'm joking. So, okay, cool. This is an important point. So you've now got to a point in your career where you're only 5 years in. You've now got a patent. You're now managing a team, and then you decide to leave.
No, I'm still there. No, so 4 years in. Yeah. No, maybe it's even less than that. It's actually 3 years in. And then I got asked to be put on another project. So I guess I'm starting to be known as someone who can do a range of different things. There's something called research and development. Mm-hmm. And I got put on an R&D project for something called e-taxi. That is definitely the love of my life in terms of aerospace. The inventing meant a lot, but working in the e-taxi project is to do with the environment. I care about the environment. And I was able to go on the aircraft. I was able to do a lot of test runs. I had a big team I worked with. That was the best.
Europe? Is that across Europe? Or was it just UK?
It was in France.
Okay.
Yeah, so France and Europe.
Lived in France?
Yeah, no, I worked a lot in France. But I did live in France. I moved on to nuclear fusion, and then I lived in France. But yeah, so when I was on that particular project, I definitely loved it. But then I got to a stage where the projects sometimes in research and development in aerospace, it's a great space to be in, but some people call it the graveyard of the best ideas, because actually,
what's going to go to market?
they love it being done, but they might not integrate it. So someone asked me about applying for this job at ITER, and ITER is a nuclear fusion project, multi-billion, and they were chief engineer in aerospace, moved on to energy, and there was a project that they said they weren't able to fill the role, and he thought I'd be really good for it. So I went to interview for it, but I had no nuclear experience in any way, and it was a senior role, but I got it, and I moved on to nuclear from there.
Right. So, and you're still with Atkins?
I'm still with Atkins,
So
yeah.
what year are we talking now, career-wise? Year 6?
I think I'm 5, 6, yeah. So it was actually early. So, yeah, I was actually
And you're in
young.
France at this time then?
Yeah, I moved to France in Aix-en-Provence, which is lovely.
Oh my God, you're annoying me now, sorry. All right, cool. I'll stop being jealous. So, you moved to the south of France?
So, yeah, South France, yep.
Annoying. Where it's hot 90% of the time. Great.
Yep, that's legit.
And you're doing what you love?
Yep.
So what was good about nuclear? Oh no, you said you loved e-taxi.
I
Why
loved
was
e-taxi.
good?
Yeah, I loved e-taxi. Why did I love e-taxi or why did I leave it?
Yeah, why did you love it? Because you said it was,
Yeah,
it was the best thing.
I loved e-taxi mainly because one, it was very practical. I could see the fact it was going to go on the plane. We're going to do tests because it's research and development. Often aerospace engineers are working on planes and ideas that have already existed. This was something new. It had to be tested. I worked with a team that were in France, which was also quite nice, and we were able to work in a manner where they had a lot of confidence in me. I did a lot of flight tests, flight planning, so a lot of, I guess the key part of it was having a lot of responsibility, being able to work with a team that was international and being able to do something that was forward thinking, that really cared about the environment.
Right, and then you go into nuclear, which is about, because obviously nuclear is wide, so what specifically was you doing?
So nuclear fusion is very different to what most people think about, which is nuclear fission. So nuclear fusion is supposed to help the environment. It's a really forward thinking.
So you wasn't making bombs?
No, yeah.
I'm really just trying to get to, so you're not making nuclear bombs?
No, not at all. It's really energy. It's energy and it's like really forward thinking. It's supposed to really change the whole world in terms of how we think about energy.
So is your kind of stuff you was working on more about how do we use what we have to now make life more sustainable without destroying?
Yeah, so in the nuclear fusion project, I was a lead engineer to one of the core buildings. So they're building this unbelievable building to host the reactor. And then there's 3 core buildings. And then I was the lead of one of the buildings called the diagnostic
to house
building.
the nuclear reactor?
Yeah.
Where was it? In France?
Yeah.
Is it built now? Can we Google it?
You can, yeah, ITER. You can definitely Google ITER.
Wow. Okay, so how long did you stay on that project?
About a year and a bit.
And what's next?
When I got back to the UK, I thought, great, I'm going to think about the project that I've been working on while I was in France. While I was in France, we developed a project where we're able to design a play space with a local school, and that play space was built in a zoo in Bristol.
Right.
So I was like, great. So I got back and I was like, wow, I was able to manage it from not even being in the country, and everybody was so excited, and I saw it built, and I was like, this is fantastic. So I was like, okay, I'm going to now focus in on this. But in reality, I got headhunted, and then I moved on to software engineering.
Right. Coding?
No, I was leading a software engineering team.
Right.
So, yeah.
And what company was that?
Telefonica.
Oh, okay, cool. How long were you there for?
I was there for just over a year.
And why did you, obviously it's not left field, but why did this appeal to you?
I think I don't even know if it did appeal to me. I think I
Or
went
did they just show you the fantastic salaries? Like,
that was it. Actually, no, the salary was definitely like, wow. So I was like, what made me do it? The salary was like so much more than aerospace.
Right.
And then the buildings were in Soho. It was pretty cool. And I was able to come back I loved living in Bristol, but coming back to London. And then I was managing like a software team that was remote to where I was working. So it was quite similar to what I'd done in the past.
Right.
So I think it really pulled on certain skills, but also meant that I was back in London.
Right. And how comes it only was what you was there for a year?
So that particular project, I was working in a startup environment in a corporate. So most people who are in that environment know what that means. So you've got the corporate bureaucracy, but then you've got the, I guess, lack of systems in the startup and governance. And I left because it was messy.
Right. So, and then what happens after that?
Then I'm like, great, I'm going to focus on my business. I'm going to start Dream Networks as a startup and see how that, I'm going to use all my technical mindset and what I've learned in terms of developing a certain part of the business. I'm going to start my own. And that was the aim. But then I got proposed to.
Cool. Interesting. Cool. So I need to dig into something right here. So now you left engineering 27, 28. What age was you when you left?
When I left engineering, I was still managing engineers. I feel like I'm still in it, but...
In terms, so aerospace.
Aerospace. I left aerospace...
And nuclear.
28, 29.
29?
Yeah.
1 year in software engineering. And then at that time, you are deciding to be an entrepreneur. Do you have finance backing to do this?
I do not have finance backing.
Cool.
But, I don't, but it's a key part. In Atkins, when I was in Atkins for those years I was there, I started their CSR business. We didn't have a CSR, corporate social responsibility. I went to the senior SLO team, so senior leadership team. I pitched to them to be able to get funding. Then they also gave people time to work on the project. People in India, in France, in different parts of the world were actually working on the project. So I was kind of used to pitching, and also when you're working as a consultant, you're used to presenting things in a certain way.
So where did you get your funding from?
I think I applied for Lloyd's startup. And then,
And
yeah,
you
I got it. Yeah, I got it, yeah. And that was a bit of funding.
A bit of funding?
Like, very little.
What, 10K?
I think it was even 7.5 or 5K.
So, and what is the thinking then? So you say, I'm not going to work now. No, I'm leaving this Telefonica because it obviously wasn't really, wasn't governed well. Then you get proposed to.
Yeah.
And it's like, why does that change? What does that do to your career?
Needs to pay for pay for wedding. So,
Right.
So yeah. So it meant that I needed to have more income to be able to pay for a wedding and get a house, etc. So then I went back.
To work?
Yeah, for start-up again.
So you did your start for how long before you went back?
Purely the startup, maybe 7 months before I was I need to go back to
And then what did you go back to?
Product managing in the startup.
Okay,
yeah.
In the startup. Okay, and how long did you stay there?
Just over, yeah.
Cool. And again, I'm assuming that was just not passion driven. It was just I need that income.
And I did like the income, but I also really liked working in terms of that environment. I was a startup trying to address the housing crisis, so I liked their aim. That spoke to me, and I was working with engineers that spoke to me. But I talked about the challenge I had. I had really challenging engineers I was working with to manage. And a product manager doesn't necessarily have to manage engineers, but I'm technical, so they use that skill set. So it was really good to be there. But then again, I was I really need to focus in. So after the year, I was I need to not live. I'll just stay here forever.
Yeah.
I need to do my social enterprise.
Did you have your first child by then?
No.
Okay, cool. So you say, right, no, not working more, doing my own venture, no funding other than a little bit you had. So tell us now, what is the venture? And what have you done, since starting? Because you're how many years in? 6 years in now?
Yeah, so we're 6 years in, but part of it started while still working. But
Yep.
Yes. So Dream Networks is a social enterprise that essentially is on a mission to enable all children to play. It addresses the play inequality we see in the UK and internationally, where children who are from a certain economic background or maybe have certain abilities that they have challenges with in terms of emotionally or cognitively. They've got challenges and they're disadvantaged. They don't have play opportunities that mean that they can really enjoy and experience the joy of play. So they're not able to really develop themselves. So for us, it's really important to say, how can we create more play spaces that mean that everyone feels they're included and they should be there, and they shouldn't cost, 100 grand. Because in reality, Peckham, a street in Peckham, they're not going to be able to have a 100 grand playground, but they can play for significantly less money if they're able to do it with their community. So we co-design with the community and we build play spaces that are sustainable and inclusive.
So from a perspective of my business now, hats on, is it, because it's a social enterprise, it's not about driving revenue. However, you need revenue to make it work. So how do you balance that, considering you've got staff to pay? How do you make it work?
So one of the key things we do is we focus in on corporates. So we're recognising that we're going to create a play space in the community, but we're working with volunteers. They say to the corporates, we have a volunteering program for you that really enables you to work with local children or users to help them create or design their own space. So they're able to get agency, they're able to learn, they're able to feel as if they belong in that space, and they're able to see you as role models coming in. So you're not just giving us money, you're coming, being a role model, helping with social mobility and other key factors that corporates care about, speaking a language essentially. A lot of it is pitching to corporates and then getting funding in that manner. We've also have started to do more grants. Not a lot, but I was very against grants. I was no, corporates need to do social good. We do grants as well, that helps with certain areas. And then we're also really tapping into social value. So recognising property developers and other companies want us to be able to create opportunities for them to have value, and they can do it by creating a play space.
Excellent. We are super excited about that venture, so we're going to definitely check it out, and we're going to put all the information all over this thing. So that's great. But thanks very much for sharing your story. Very inspiring and very insightful. And I just can't believe you're so relaxed that you have a patent, but I will get over it eventually. But no, it's super pleasure having you, and we look forward to hearing all about the great stuff you're going to be doing going forward.
Thank you very much.
Forward Think.